Hi, this is Joy, and it looks like we lost one of our participants here, but I'm sure he'll be back though. There he is. All right, so this was kind of short notice. There were only 2 people that could come. I had some technical difficulties, and I'm actually a bit under the weather, but we are here, and I've got the course material for the first class ready, and I'm excited, and let's do this. So let's see here. Going to screen share, application window, there we are. All right. So, can you see that well?
Yeah.
Excellent. What I'm going to do then?
I can't see anything.
Uh-oh. Well, I'm going to be reading these, so it should be you're not going to miss anything. So, first I want to talk a little bit about how this course is different than other courses and what we're going to do here. So why is it so difficult for us to make changes, to make the changes we want and need to make in our lives? We read books or take courses or set goals or write step-by-step plans, yet more often than not the changes are short-lived or never happen at all. It's because they're mostly focused on what and how we do things, but they don't get to the bottom of why we do or don't do them in the first place. There are some methods out there that are designed to find the underlying causes so we can change ourselves, but they're inconsistent. It should say and. I'm just going to go ahead and edit that. They're inconsistent. No, I was right the first time. I'm sorry. They're inconsistent in their effectiveness because they're too targeted. They end up missing stuff because they don't find the true root or don't allow you to interact with it in a manner that really works. This course is designed to allow you to find and interact with these areas in a natural way that starts at the true root of our issues and organically flows from one step to the next. It's general and sweeping rather than targeted strictly at the areas that we believe to be related to the final results we seek. The differences are in the order used and one of my kids, my teenager, I did not tell him I'm recording a video and he's looking for me. So I'm just going to pause the recording for one moment. Alright, I'm back. So I have 2 different softwares that I've been working with for recording stuff, and one of them works a lot better in a lot of ways, but I can't figure out how to pause a recording, and this software is better at least for that, and it seemed to be like less problematic in some ways for this particular setup, so I just need to learn them better. But anyways, all right, let me pull this back up again. So this course is general and sweeping rather than targeted strictly at the areas we believe to be related to the final results we seek. The differences are in the specific order used and the way that you interact with each area. The premise is that our mind is similar to a very complex computer, and the things we learn are its programming. All of the information we perceive is processed according to our existing programming, and then we save it to use it to process new information. So does that make sense? Like the idea that our brain is basically like running these programs, and if I see a car, I know it's a car because I know what a car is, and everything that we perceive in life is like that. And even if we see something totally new, something that we've never seen before, we're still trying to compare it to things that we already understand in order to make sense of it. So occasionally we delete or modify
Right.
previous programming because we learn that it's inaccurate. However, we usually just keep adding layer upon layer of new programming on top of our existing programming. I'll call these layers lines of code. This programming is very important in life, of course. It's how we learn. It's why we know what red and dog and friend mean, for example. It allows us to function in the world. I mean, it's how we're, when we go get career training or get trained at a job, it's how we are able to remember and utilize that information. It's how we function. But what happens when there's a line of code buried within the innumerable layers of programming that's incorrect or incomplete? The layers that are built on it are negatively impacted, and we just keep adding layer after layer. Eventually, we can't even see how the current layer is related to that initial line of bad code. We usually don't even realize that those original errors in the code are there. So, for example, let's say I texted my boyfriend and it's been 5 hours and he still hasn't texted me back. And I can see that he's online, he's playing video games. Why, 5 hours he can't answer my message, So, I might get irritated. I might, make some passive aggressive remark or, there's, all sorts of things that I might do. And what I don't realize is that what's happening is I feel neglected. I'm worried that I might be abandoned, that he doesn't really care about me. But that, most people can't even connect it that far. Most people don't have the insight that what they're doing is related to their I just had this realization that I didn't try the sound after I started the screen share. But if you guys can hear me, it should be all right. So I'm just going to keep rolling. So anyways, hi, I'm Joy. I'm ESFP. This is how I interact with technology.
All right.
But anyways, so basically, most people don't even realize that the reason that they're upset that they didn't get this text back is because they're worried that it means that he doesn't care about them. But let's say in my case, it's because my parents didn't pay enough attention to me when I was a toddler because, maybe there was something going on in our house at the time and they just couldn't, maybe they both worked a lot or whatever the case might be. And that's the actual root cause of what's going on. I would have no way of being able to access and change that without going back and addressing that initial thing. But without knowing what that initial thing even is, it's really difficult to make that connection, much less, do any kind of modification to it. So, all right, to continue, the layers that are built on it are negatively impacted, and we just keep adding layer after layer. Eventually, we can't see how the current layer is related to that initial bad line of code. We usually don't even realize that those original errors in the code are there. The result is that we struggle in various areas of our life, and all of our most valiant efforts to change those situations or ourselves fail again and again. They're failing because we haven't actually found the line of code with the error and corrected it. For example, we may wind up failing to achieve our goals, unable to drop bad habits and addictions, struggling in our relationships, blocking our own creativity, or not living up to our earning potential. What I'm offering is a process through which we can find and correct the true underlying causes of areas of difficulty in our lives. Complete this process earnestly, and you will find that your life will change dramatically for the better in both ways you intended before you began, as well as in unforeseen, wonderful ways. You will find a whole new level of peace, joy, clarity, and empowerment. I'm so excited to share this process with you. My purpose and passion in life is to remind people who they truly are so they can realize their own purpose and passion and make a positive difference in the world around them just by being themselves. And you know what? Then when they do that, the people that are positively impacted by them will also have a positive impact on the people around them. So, you know, what I'm looking for is a series of ripple effects. You know, that's the purpose for what I do. That's my mission. If you're thinking that this sounds too good to be true, rest assured it's going to be a bitch. What I mean is that it's an intense process, but it's well worth it. Some parts are painful and others are incredibly freeing, joyful, and exciting, but none of it is boring. Expect this process to impact your moods. Nothing you experience will be too much for you to handle, though. You got this. You won't go into it any more deeply than you feel you can right now, and your mind has safeties in place to prevent memories that you're not ready to deal with yet from surfacing. You are safe. So what I meant about the mind having safeties in place is that sometimes we repress memories because we don't have the tools to deal with them yet. And sometimes there's ways to force those to the surface. This isn't going to do that, you know. This is a more gentle process. We're making one big sweep through all of it, and then, you know, from there you'll be in a much, much better position to live your life the way you know, really want to live it, and to, you know, you'll be really empowered to make changes. And then you may find down the road that you want to do this again, and maybe at that point you will be in a position to go into some like even deeper stuff, but you don't need to worry that it's going to be too much for you to handle. You're going to be all right, but it is intense, not gonna lie.
All right.
All right, so
Ready.
all right, good deal. So, and the intensity, I think it's going to vary person to person. You know, if someone's got a lot of stuff going on, or they're just like not in a good position to like get really deep with it, they might not, and that's okay. You know, just do what feels right for you. And when you're, you know, however deeply you go into it is also the amount of reward you're going to see from it. So, you know, you kind of, well, you're going to get out more than what you put in, I believe. But, you know, there is a relationship between the two. So, let's see your next slide. That said, if you're in a phase in your life right now where you have significantly more demands on your time and energy than usual, now might not be the best time to take this course. It's okay if you're brokenhearted right now. That's possibly even preferable. But being sick or working crazy hours or taking exams at school in the next month would be too much to do while you're doing this. So we all go through that sometimes. Life gets crazy sometimes. I will totally understand if you want to hold off for now. Just let me know. So we're about to actually like get into the process, the first step of the process. So, you know, if you're thinking like, oh wow, I just started a brand new job and I'm working extra hours because I'm training and, you know, that sort of thing, or like, you know, I'm moving and I'm like, you know, getting a new job right now, you know, all within the next few weeks or the next month, then maybe now is not the best time. I did say that, you know, you're not going to get into it more than you can, but all things being equal, only you can decide if it's worth it right now to do it or if it would be better to wait a couple months. As for me, I tend to err on the side of I'm just going to do the thing. I go ahead and do it and, you know, make it happen and you know, just see where it goes, and you know, that works for me. But you know, I just want to say I get it if you're thinking that now isn't the right time. No worries. And I kind of wonder, like, fit slide to current window. What does that do? I swear I've done this before. I've done it like once a year in my life for the past few years. All right, so my concern with this is that it's going to like go to the next one automatically, but we're just going to try it. All right, so anyways, this is why I'm doing a beta test with this course. But you're getting it for free though. Like I'm going to be charging it in the future once I get all the kinks ironed out. So anyways, all right, let's get rolling. Things are about to get simpler, but here's where your work starts. Each step in the process is different. The first step is about survival. It's related to physical safety and having our needs met. What we're going to do is remember events from our past that made us feel afraid for our safety or security. Over the next few days, just passively allow memories of the times in your life when you felt fear pop in your head here and there as you go about your day. So you could be like driving down the road and all of a sudden you'll be like, you know, I just remembered, you know, I was at the doctor's office when I was 12 and they were talking about I might need surgery and, you know, and the risks involved, and you know I was really scared by that, you know. So this isn't like the intense part of the process. It does impact your day-to-day life a little bit, but it's not this part. You know, you might feel like a twinge of emotion here or there as these memories just kind of filter in, but it's not like it's not anything really intense. It's just sort of your brain getting you ready for the part where you go into it more actively. So there's no need to focus on this much. Just intending to remember these stories from your past is enough for now. Then, when you have an hour or two to relax undisturbed, get very comfortable and maybe even consider doing a short meditation or relaxation exercise first. There are a whole bunch of really great ones on YouTube. And if you want any recommendations, I actually have a playlist of meditations. But the idea is to get yourself, you know, feeling as comfortable as possible. And then once you do, start recounting every time in your life that you can think of that you felt afraid for your safety or security from birth until now in order. It's all important, but make sure you're especially thorough when recounting the first 5 or 6 years of your life. And the reason for that is because, you know, that's the foundation of our programming. You know, stuff might have happened when we were 14 that impacted us, but we processed it when we were 14 based on the stuff that happened in the first like 5 or 6 years. So you know, the first 5 or 6 years, that's where most of the key programming is going to lie. So either speak, write, or mentally focus on this process. Again, focus is important, so don't allow any distractions during this time. If you run out of time, it's okay. Just start up where you left off next time you have a chance. And with that, I just want to... Wow, I just realized that I started the slideshow and you guys don't see the slideshow, you see the alright, anyways, gonna go back. Like I said, this is why I'm doing a dry run. Alright, I'm going to stop the screen share and then restart it with the correct window now that I have the slideshow going. Apparently that's not an option. Well, that's fun. Lovely. Alright, well. Alright, so this is where we're at. So basically, it is pretty important to go in order starting from birth, but you're going to find that stuff will remind you of other things. So there might be something from when you were, 11 that reminds you of something from when you were 4. So it's okay to skip around if you need to. Just just try to do it in order, to do it chronologically, and and that's fine. And sometimes you don't even remember exactly when something happened. If something happened when I was 6 and something happened when I was 7, like I might not remember that the thing from when I was 6 happened first. It's just, it's just the way it is, and that's fine. Please remember that small children are not rational. If you've spent any amount of time around small children, you know this very well. They will say that they're afraid of something or act like they're afraid of something, and it's something that to us seems pretty silly, but they're scared, and you're considering yourself from when you were a small child. So it's important to remember that, just because you know that something wasn't actually a threat, looking back at it now, doesn't mean that it wasn't important in, writing these lines of code in your programming. So, it is not only okay, but actually expected that you felt fear about things that your that your rational mind may now know were not real threats. The earliest events that form the footings for our programming foundation are things like whether we were often in pain during infancy, whether our caregivers responded to our cries, and how much affection we received. Of course, we don't remember these things, but these are examples of the stuff that may have played into our early childhood fears. For babies and small children, being loved and accepted is a matter of survival. So if you think about that, like why do we take care of babies? They're loud, they're demanding, they're just like a resource black hole. They don't really offer much of anything, and they're a lot of work. And they're really defenseless. Why do we take care of them? It's because we have a biological drive to do so. Our psyche and our biology make us want to love and take care of this little thing that needs us. So sadly, not all babies have that in the world, and there's actually something called failure to thrive, where if a baby doesn't get enough human contact, it'll actually get sick and get weak, and it could even die if it doesn't get enough just contact and affection. So when you're a baby or you're a small child, being loved is the thing that keeps you alive. So any fear that you weren't loved and accepted as a small child is definitely related to this step that we're looking at right now. When you were a teenager, if you didn't feel loved, that's a different thing. But for early childhood, that's definitely part of what we're looking at. So, so it's worthwhile at this point to take a look at the 5 love languages. The idea is that we each have a love language through which we can feel others' love for us. They could use all 4 other languages, and we may rationally know that they love us, but we won't feel loved if they neglect our primary love language. The 5 love languages are physical touch, quality time, gifts, acts of service, and words of affirmation. If you don't know yours, Google it and find out so you can consider it during this step. So, are both of you familiar with love languages?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. Okay. I think I know mine. I think it's words of affirmation, but I don't know, I could be wrong.
Sure.
No?
Sure. Well,
yeah.
I mean, it might be worth considering that, and maybe as you go through this you'll realize that it's actually something else. But well, you'll see. And
Yeah.
and then Chris, you know what? I'm gonna pause for a second.
I'm sorry, what? Okay, so the 5 love languages, something I'm gonna look into. I don't know a lot about it yet.
All right, perfect. They actually have a website with a quiz on it that can help you figure out what yours is if you don't know it.
Oh.
All right,
Okay.
so for example, if quality time is your love language and you had siblings, you might not have felt loved by your parents even though they did love you because you didn't get all that much one-to-one time with them. If it's physical touch, and your parents used physical punishment to discipline you, you might not have felt loved because the withdrawals from your love account were more impactful and therefore greater than the deposits. So, I think on the next slide I talk about. All right, here we go. The point of this is not to blame or vilify our caregivers or anyone else. They did the best they could with the tools and experiences that they had, truly. You know, I grew up in the 80s and my parents were Christian. Like, you know, Christians in the 80s, like, if you didn't, give your kids a good spanking when they messed up, like, you didn't love them, like, they really, truly believed that, and parents who, most parents don't enjoy, hurting their kids. They don't like doing that. They wish they didn't have to do that. They get no pleasure from it at all. So, they were doing something that they didn't want to do and didn't like doing because they thought that it was what was best for us. So I'm not trying to play any blame games here or anything like that. It's so, your parents, whatever happened, even if they were legitimately abusive and like sadistic, like even then, they only had their own programming, their own experiences, their own, brain to work with, their own, chemistry, their own, they were doing the best that they could given the circumstances. So, so it's not about people having done things wrong. It's simply about recognizing that certain events made you feel certain ways. You may find yourself getting angry during this step. That's totally okay. Just allow the anger to be there and then allow it to pass naturally. Don't confront the people who are involved about any stuff you remember, by the way. That point may or may not come later, but if it does, it won't be for another 3 or so weeks. And then you'll have an entirely different perspective on it. So, when I went through this, I kind of did get mad at my parents, like, they, like I said, they did their best, but when you're focused on the feelings and you remember being so afraid about this or that, whatever the case was, then the natural response to fear is fight or flight. And sometimes, when we remember stuff that made us fearful, our response is to want to fight, So whatever you do, like, don't make a post on Facebook about how it's evil to spank your kids, like, not yet. You might want to do that, once you've completed the process, and you'll be able to do it much more eloquently and reach more people if that's the case. But for now, don't do it. Just hang in there and, don't confront people about stuff if you're upset with them, all right?
Yeah.
And if recounting these stories makes you feel any emotions, just let them come. It's okay. Note which ones or note the ones to which you feel the strongest reaction. This is where the money's at. When those feelings come up, hold yourself in a space of compassion. You were scared, and that's totally okay. You're safe now. Just be there for yourself and let yourself feel however you feel until it feels right to move on to the next story. Don't move on just to get it over with, though. It really is okay to feel whatever it is you're feeling. Now, remember, when you're doing this, you've created a safe space for yourself where you're very physically comfortable, there's no one around, you don't have to accomplish anything. The whole point in what you're doing during this time is remembering these things and just allowing the feelings to be whatever they happen to be in that moment. There's no way to do it wrong. You know, you're not going to get mad and go out and, like, you know, shoot up the neighborhood. You're not going to do anything. You're just going to experience it, and then it's going to pass, and it's going to be okay. So it's really important to go let my teenagers in the house, because they apparently locked themselves out and are messaging me, even though I said that I can't be disturbed right now. But I'm gonna pause and go do that. Sorry. Thank you. I'll be right back. All right, thank you. Next slide is, if you choose to share some or all of your stories with another person, be sure to pick somebody who will patiently listen without giving you advice, encouragement, or negativity. It's very important that no one, including you, criticizes or judges your feelings. Don't try to distract or cheer yourself up either. Just let those feelings pass naturally. This will likely only take a few minutes. So, a lot of people learn in childhood that it's not okay to feel certain things or to express certain feelings, and end up developing these really complex patterns that they try to use to avoid feeling these things, and it really just creates a lot of problems in their life, because their subconscious mind knows that they need to deal with this old pain and keeps recreating situations where they're going to end up exposed to the same type of pain over again in an attempt to force them to face it, and then they just keep burying it, and it's a whole lot of programming that's going into it, and getting at the root of it means just letting yourself feel these emotions. Now, when I went through all of this, a lot of it wasn't super emotional for me. I remember one time I was afraid because of this, and then I move on to the next thing. But there would be certain ones that would make me feel this or that, and really there's it's all good. It's all good, So it's not like every single thing you think of is gonna just throw you into this emotional turmoil. But it's important that if you do start to feel sad or scared or angry or whatever as you're remembering these things, that you just really let yourself do that. Okay, so in life, pain happens. That's just part of being alive. Whether it's physical pain or emotional pain, we do experience pain in life. No matter what we do, that's going to happen. However, struggle doesn't necessarily have to happen. It does struggle is part of the learning process, but you can learn to struggle a lot less in life by not resisting pain when it comes up. So, for example, Um, like a doula or a midwife who's helping a woman give birth knows very well that the way to make it go as smoothly as possible is to just let it hurt, resisting the pain, telling yourself that you don't want to feel the pain, trying to not feel it some way, like anything like that, any kind of resistance to the pain just amplifies it so much more. If you just let it hurt and breathe through it, then it's going to be a significantly smoother and easier process. And it's the same thing with emotional pain too. If you just let it be what it is, without telling yourself that you shouldn't feel that way, without trying to distract yourself from it, without trying to tie it to your current situation, or whatever kind of other thing that you might do other than just letting it be exactly what it is. It's going to be much, much smoother. So personally, I think this is a good, just approach to emotions in general. However, I'm not asking you to adopt a whole new way of experiencing emotions right now. It's just in this, safe space during this process that I'm asking you to do that. Some of us can't go out into our lives and fully feel the anger we feel when we deal with a problem at work, we may not have that luxury right now. However, there in your, bedroom or wherever else you're doing this, it's okay to just go ahead and feel whatever happens to come up, right then and there. So, and then you'll find actually that when you just let the feelings be whatever they are, they actually pass really quickly. I was very shocked when I discovered this. I want to say maybe 8 years ago or so. If I didn't try to analyze or distract or change my emotions, if I just let myself have feel sad, if I felt sad, a lot of times within 10 minutes it'd be gone. 3 to 10 minutes, and all of a sudden I'd be like, oh, well, that's over now. Wow, I didn't know that would be so easy. I would have been doing that this whole time. And at the time, I didn't even understand that doing this actually prevents you from hanging on to it, because when you don't just let yourself feel things, it doesn't go away. It just stays beneath the surface, stinking up the place and, messing up your programming. So anyways, it's actually, it is intense and it is unpleasant, but it's actually not that bad if you're not resisting it, and then it goes away and then it's gone. And this is just a miracle to me. But anyways, it's not even the main point of this. It's just kind of a part of the process of going through this step. So anyways, other things that may have made you feel afraid for your survival, safety, and security at any point in life are times of extreme uncertainty, violence, medical emergencies or procedures, health scares, uncertain living arrangements, etc. So if you were worried that you might become homeless or anything like that, if you were in a bad car accident, if you didn't know if you were gonna need to, have a big surgery or, anything like that. And I've got a little note on the slide. You can help me add to this list for future presentations. So, if you have any ideas of things that could help people remember, I'm all ears. And, just message me and I'll be able to add more stuff. Thank you. All right. So remember, you're not going to go any more deeply into this process than you can handle right now. That said, the deeper you go, the more benefits you'll reap. Go ahead and push yourself into hard emotions. If you feel like you're like you can while you're in that safe place. But also, just in general during this process, take very good care of yourself. There's something called self-care that is very important just in general, but it's extra important during times of stress or growth. So for self-care, do things to show yourself how much you care about you. Pamper yourself a little, give yourself a break, get plenty of sleep, relax, go for nature walks, indulge in me time, care for your health, spend time with close and supportive loved ones. Do anything else you can think of that will be good for you. Try not to beat yourself up if you fall behind in non-critical areas right now. This process does take some time and energy, and the best thing that you can do for anyone and everyone is to focus on you and your self-healing and wellness right now. Well, and kind of just in general too, but so if your dishes start to pile up in your sink and you just like don't feel up to dealing with them right now, don't beat yourself up about it. It's all right. The dishes will get done. If you need a night to just watch your favorite movie, take a night to watch your favorite movie. Make sure you get plenty of sleep. I'm such a hypocrite. Make sure you get plenty of sleep and don't skip meals, that sort of thing. Just take care of yourself. So if you get through this step more than a day or two before the next class, let me know. I'll give you the next step after this one. These steps flow naturally from one to the next, and I don't want you to move into the next emotional space without understanding why. And as a side note, to avoid sabotaging your progress, I suggest not using emotional anesthetics right now. So that'd be like alcohol or whatever it is that you do. And I'm not assuming that you do anything, but most people have something that they do when they're feeling difficult things. They have things that they do to make it so they don't have to feel it as much anymore. So if you can avoid that stuff, at least largely, during this process, that's really going to help you experience this in the way that you need to in order to make the changes that you need. And I promise that the entire course is not like this. So how the course is like it starts out kind of hard, and then it gets a little bit harder, and then it gets significantly easier, and then it's just absolutely wonderful. So it's not a month of just like feeling awful. It's shorter than that, and you're not going to feel awful all the time. But another side note here is don't blame your current circumstances for anything that you're feeling in the next few weeks. Resist the urge to take it out on the people in your life. Take a step back and a few deep breaths and give yourself whatever it is you need right now. So the idea here is just remember that, you're kind of in the middle of something, and when we're in a certain emotional space, like, if I'm angry because I remember that, my parents did this stuff that scared me and hurt me when I was a kid, and I'm going about my day, and then there's some little thing that somebody does, it might set me off because I'm there right now, and I might forget that I'm doing this, and just focus on them and what they're doing, and try to make it about other people and external circumstances. Just keep it as internal as you can for this, and remember that whatever you're feeling, whatever comes up, it likely has to do with stuff that happened a very long time ago, not this afternoon. So does all of that make sense? Do you have any questions?
So the ideal time to do this would be like a couple days, one day or something. When are we meeting again or doing this again?
Well, because it's the first time that I'm running this, I I'm not completely sure. The plan right now is to do it like same time, same place next Sunday. But
Okay.
if a whole bunch of people are coming to me and saying like, I'm ready for the next step now, then we can do it early. And I don't think we're ever going to find a time when everybody can be there, but that's why we're recording so that if somebody can't make
Yeah.
it, they can still see what's up. And so I think what you're going to find.
I think it sounds great.
All right, excellent. So, and I think what you're going to find, what I found, is that, like, when I started this process, I didn't actually fully envision how it was going to actually play out. I had a basic idea, and I intended to sit down with the first step. Like I knew what that first step was meant to be, and I intended to sit down with that when I had a chance. And I didn't realize that leading up to it, I would often wonder, like, I wonder what kind of stuff is going to come up when I sit down to do the first step. And actually, that's a really great way to get your brain to start working on it for you, is to go ahead and ask. I wonder what's going to come up when I sit down and go through all the stuff that I was afraid of in my life. You'll have like little memories surfacing as you go about your day, if your brain works anything like mine. And we'll see. That's why we're doing a test run. But But basically, you'll get to a point where you're like, all right, I'm ready to do this now. And it's going to have to do with where you're at, with remembering that stuff. And as well as just like, what kind of day you're looking at. Like, I've got some time this afternoon, I'm going to do this. I was very, 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 very fortunate because I had somebody that would sit on the phone with me for hours and listen to me talk about all of the times in my life that I was afraid. Yes, and just like not offer much in the way of comment and not judge and not like get upset because of anything that I said. Like he just listened and he was happy to do it. And wow, what an amazing thing. I feel so grateful to have somebody like this in my life. So I think that's an option for a way to go through it. I don't think it's necessary though. You can write it out if you want to. That might work really well for some people. Or I do think that just like sitting there sort of like mentally recounting it could work just as well, as long as you're doing it, as long as you're really focusing on it. Writing and speaking work well for a lot of people because it helps them focus their thoughts on what they're trying to focus on. Their mind isn't wandering. So just do whatever seems to be working for you. If you're somebody who, like me, likes to externalize things, you might be able to find a partner within the participants who would listen to your stuff, and then you could listen to theirs. That'll make it take twice as long to do the part where you actually recount the childhood stuff, and a lot of personal stuff is going to come up, but if you feel comfortable with that, you could, that's always something to consider. Otherwise, you could go sit out alone in nature and, yell it to a lake, or maybe not yell, whatever.
I'm okay. I think I know what I'm going to do for it. I just don't know when to do it. Oh, but we'll see. Yeah.
Right, excellent. Very good. So I'm really excited to have the opportunity to offer this process to people. Like I said before, like I really truly believe that this is so transformational, that this is going to change people's lives, and I'm excited to see how it plays out and what kind of benefits people get from it. And it's possible that the process is a little bit like geared for the way I think and the way my brain works, and if that's the case, then I'll know like some adjustments need to be made so it's more, so it fits better, and people can go in their own direction a little bit as they need to. But in any case,
Don't mind me, keep cutting it out.
That's all right. We're actually probably just about through here.
Okay.
But I'm gonna share a story from what happened when I went through this process. And this didn't actually come up when I was doing the first step. This is something that I remembered later, but it is related to fear. So one time when I was about 4 or 5, my parents made some popcorn and they asked me if I wanted popcorn. And I said no. And then I changed my mind. I did want popcorn, but I was afraid to tell them. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I had fear and desire wrestling with each other, and they were in the kitchen, and I sat around the corner in the hall against the wall, just on the ground, and, the fear and desire were wrestling with each other until finally the desire won, and I worked up the courage and went and told them that I changed my mind, that I actually did want popcorn, and they were like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Joy, it's all gone now." And it was just the most awful thing for me. And it's so funny because when I told this story for the first time, like I really felt it. Like I could feel it in my body. And that, by the way, is a really good way to help yourself understand your emotions a little bit. When you are feeling stuff, pay attention to where in your body you're feeling it. And like if you feel it in your chest, like bring your attention more into your chest, and you'll be able to like understand that and experience that feeling more deeply. But anyways, so I'm telling the story and I start crying, I'm like, the popcorn was all gone, and then I told it to another person, and it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, wow, the most bizarre thing came up. And then I went and told somebody about it, and I started talking about this story with the popcorn, and I started crying again. And then I did it again, and I started crying again. I couldn't believe I was like so sad about this popcorn. And so finally, one night I just like decided that I had a craving for popcorn and made myself some popcorn, and I ate the popcorn, and I felt so much better. Like my mood went from like here to here having eaten this popcorn, and that's not what my goal was. I just kind of felt like eating popcorn, but then I kind of chuckled to myself, and I was like, this is about that freaking popcorn incident from when I was a kid. And it's so funny because like my dad made popcorn probably like every single night of his entire adult life. Like there was no shortage of popcorn. I am not popcorn deprived. But there was just something about that story, and then having made myself that popcorn and feeling better, I was like, see, Joy, it's all right. You're an adult now. If you want popcorn, you can just go get yourself some popcorn. Like it's all right, And then I had my aha moment. And this is the kind of aha moment that you're going to get in multiple areas of your life as you go through the steps. And you're not going to get most of these until you're further into the process. Because like some of the later steps in the process are where you actually start to have these aha moments. In the beginning, it's mostly just focused on the memories and the feelings themselves, but when it came time to actually remember or to actually like put it together, so I had this realization: you can get your own popcorn. You don't need to like ask anybody for popcorn. If you want popcorn, you can go get popcorn. And then I said, aha! I don't ask for things. If there's something that I want or need, I don't ask for it. I either go and get it myself, or I negotiate for it, or I just make a demand. I tell somebody what my expectation is and what's going to happen if they let me down. I don't just ask for things. And when I had that realization, all of a sudden, I could see all of these different areas of my life that had been very clearly impacted by this like unspoken rule that I had, this line of code in my programming. It's not okay to ask for things. So at that point, I was in a position to go back and take out that line of code consciously and replace it with a line of code that says, it's okay to ask for something that you want or need, and it's still okay even if the answer is yes, and it's still okay even if the answer is no. Because, I mean, there have been times in my life where I kind of didn't have a choice. I needed to ask for something, and usually if I asked for something, I would get it, but then I would feel guilty. I would feel like I did something wrong. Instead of saying thank you to somebody that gave me something that I asked for, I would apologize to them. But it's because I had broken a rule. And so now I go ahead and ask for something. If there's something I want or need, it's okay for me to ask for it. And I mean, that one realization in itself is huge for me. Yeah, I'm an Enneagram 8, so that's a pretty big one. You know, and I had another one. There were a lot of times when I was afraid in a situation where, like, for example, one time I got carbon monoxide poisoning, and I was in the emergency room, and I was having trouble staying awake, and I wasn't sure if I should even be there. And one of the symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning is confusion. So I knew I was confused. I was confused, and I knew I was confused. And I didn't feel like I could take care of myself and make decisions for myself right then and there. And I didn't have anybody I felt that I could ask to help me. There was somebody who I wanted help from, but I only like hinted about the situation and expected him to like know and just like be there for me. I didn't actually say, hey, I'm scared and I don't know what to do. Please help me. You know, could you please help me? I didn't do that. And if I had, I would have gotten what I needed at that time. And there are a lot of other times in my life when I was scared and I didn't ask for help. And it never even occurred to me that like I could have until I had that realization. So this is basically what the course is about, having these realizations that allow you to go back and make these changes. But it all starts, it's really important to go in a certain order. So don't try to push for the realizations right now. Right now, just worry about remembering times when you were afraid, and you know, for your safety and security, and remembering how you felt at the time. Like you don't even necessarily have to like dive super deeply into the fear if it's like unless it's something that you recognize like is a big, you know, if it's coming up, then let it come up. But you don't need to force it, you know, like if you don't have strong feelings about something, that's okay. But remember how you felt, though. Try to remember that. So yeah, that's that's step one, and that's kind of a sample of the type of thing that you will get as you continue to go through all the other steps. So, anything else from either of you? Any questions or comments?
I think I'm good.
I like it.
All right, excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, you know, let me know. You can post in the group. I added you to the Facebook group about it. Go ahead and if you come up with any questions, you can post them there. If you're wondering, somebody else is probably wondering too. So it would probably help everybody. And, you know, like I said, if you get through this process and you find that you're starting to like move into a different emotional space, you know, and again, whatever is going on in your life, you're going to want to like blame those things instead of like realizing, you know, what this is really about. I'll just go ahead and tell you. The next step of the process, I hope this doesn't overwhelm anybody, but the next step in the process is remembering times when you felt guilt or shame in your life. So,
Okay.
So don't worry about that too much for now, but if you get through this process and you find that you all of a sudden are feeling a lot of guilt and shame, it's time to talk about the next one, because, you know, I don't want you to like be wandering through your life feeling this like awful feeling with no idea what's going on or what to do about it or anything like that. But the second step's pretty similar to the first one, just with a different focus. So it's mostly going to be guilt though. Like it goes fear, guilt, and then shame. So guilt would probably come up next. So in any case, next time we will talk about the next two steps, which are guilt and shame. So I will see you then. Thank you very much. And thank you for being a guinea pig for me. I love it. I appreciate it very much. All
All right, thanks, Joy. I'll see you next time.
Okay, very good. Bye.
Bye then.